start the webinar in a short time. Make sure you are ready to follow the webinar. And we from the committee ask for permission to record today's webinar session. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Sharing is Caring Season 2, Part 4, with the theme How to Equip Young Professionals to Reach International Career. To the Honorable, the head of the UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Career Center, Mrs. Salama Agung, MA, PhD, along with the staff. To the Honorable, our speakers for today's webinar, Mr. Pablo Pusterla, who has taken the time to provide materials in today's webinar, and also special thanks to Mr. Mustafa, who has joined us for our discussion today. Also, thank you to Mr. Julio and Mr. Tommy, who has joined us. And thank you to all the participants who have attended. May we always be given health and keep the good spirit until the event is finished. So before we move to the next agenda, please allow me to introduce myself. I'm Nabila Hardavi, the moderator of today's webinar. And before we proceed to the presentation of today's material, it would be nice to greet our speakers today. So hello, Mr. Pablo, how are you today?
I'm doing good, thanks, Nabila.
Okay, how today's weather in Brazil?
Very hot.
You are in Brazil or South America?
I am in Brazil, actually.
Oh, okay, good. So before we move on to the presentation session, I will first read Mr. Pablo Pusterla's short biography. Operator? Okay. So now we have Mr. Pablo Pusterla. He is a broad global HR experience at leadership position. As for the education, from 1996 till 1999, he graduated from Pontificia Universidade Católica de Campinas. I hope my pronunciation is right. Good. As Bachelor of Business Administration. And as for the professional experience, from 2000 till 2012, he acted as a senior HR manager from Tenaris. And for 2014 till 2016, he acted as HR director in Ingredient Incorporated. As for 2017 till 2021, he acted as human resources director in Fertilizantes Tocantins at South America. And as for 2021, which is present, he acted as HR director at a Agrogen company. So that's the biography of our speaker, Mr. Pablo Pusterla. Now we know that Mr. Pablo is very experienced in the HR field and very well versed in the theme of our webinar today. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our speakers. Mr. Pablo Pusterla, the spotlight is yours.
Thank you, Nabila. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everyone here for having me here today to speak about this topic. As I spoke with Mustafa yesterday, although the scope of my talk today is to talk about international career, I think that it would be better to speak about career as a whole, because not everyone's ambition sometimes is to reach this international level. Sometimes people has other ambitions, and I think we need to respect the willingness of people, because the career path is going to be constructed by the things that are important for you in your life. So that's the focus of this presentation, of course, because I spent like 10 years abroad out of my home. I have a bit of experience, and I can share with you my experiences, the good sides and the bad sides of being expatriated. But I will focus on my view on career after these 20 years working in human resources. So I think I can help you guys, especially the young professionals, how to pursue their career based on what the proposals of their life they have. Good? Okay. I made a small presentation here. I think it's 10-20 minutes presentation, then I can open to questions. So a little bit about me. Although Nabila has shared, I have 44 years. I am married. And I have two children, just so you to know. One was born in Tangerang in 2010 when I was there. So I have an Indonesian.
I'm sorry, Mr. Pablo. The slide hasn't been shown yet.
Not yet?
Yeah. I mean the bigger version.
Well, I think I am sharing. I can't see. It's just with you. It's with everybody.
The slideshow?
Yeah.
The slideshow, I mean.
Yes, I'm at slideshow now. Are you seeing? Muzafa, are you seeing my screen?
Pablo, you can click for the bigger one. So
yes, I am. I do it again.
Now we see your slide on about you. Now we do.
Okay, so I have two children. One of them was born in Tangerang, as I was saying. He's Indonesian, and he behaves like an Indonesian, which I like pretty much. It's not that he was born, but that's something that a curiosity. Even the way he sits like an Indonesian, which I like a lot. Well, talking about professional career, I have 20 plus years experience. I spent 10 years living abroad. I spent 4 to 5 years living in Indonesia with Southeast Asia scope. No, so that's from there I knew it, Pa Muzafa, Pa Nawawi, and Pa Julio. Although Julio did not live in Indonesia, I think it was very close to him, and he was in charge of Asia Pacific from the company at that time. And especially one thing that I like the most is to spend time with young professionals. No, because as we are getting old, as far as I'm getting old, I like to spend time with the young because they always teach new things for us, at least for me, and I feel very proud to contribute to their professional development. No, so that happened with Anissa. Anissa Paramastuti started with me as a young professional at the time, and today she was here presenting her career perspective. That made me a lot of very proud that Pa Muzafa as well is one guy that started with me. So sharing time with them make me feel very good, make me feel proud, and that's one of the things that I like the most of doing in HR. Well, where I am working today, no. I spent 4 years working at Fertilizantes Tocantins, which was mining project in Brazil, especially dedicated to agricultural sector. And one of the shareholders from Tocantins who sold this business opened a new business that is now focused on agricultural production. And he invited me to work with him in this project. And we are reaching 100,000 hectares, which, just to you to have an idea, if this was an area, it would take about 600 kilometers to circle all the area that belong to this company. So it's a very huge area, production area. We have a cattle creation of 120,000 oxen, which is enough meat to feed 1.5 million per year. And above all, 90% of the production that we make on meat goes to China and Asia Pacific as a whole, especially goes to Indonesia as well. So probably the meat that you are eating today is coming from this location where the sign is showed here. So this is a little bit how globalization reaches everybody. No, from the middle, from the heart of Brazil, the meat goes to your table there in Jakarta. So the complexity of this business is something that also attracts me a lot, and that's something that calls my attention and build and shape the people that we are hiring and that work with the company. But because no matter where you are, you have to understand the chain where you belong and the impact of your job into the business as a whole. And this is the impact, just to you to give an idea how large and how far our job goes every day. No, and this is just an example because the time we work at Tenaris, this also was a global business, and every day more each small big business will be linked to the global perspective. Just see the crisis we are facing now with production process from many companies around the globe. This is just a signalization of how complex the business are getting to. Okay. Well, now talking about career, in my
Mr.
opinion.
Pablo, pardon me. I think the slide haven't changed yet.
Probably is a delay. Just let me know when it goes, but I can continue speaking, and when the slide goes up, you just tell me. Well, talking about career proposal, and that's again that's the focus why I change a bit the scope because I'm gonna share my view and my beliefs on career, which doesn't mean that we'll match with everybody else, right? So.
Slide is not moving, Pablo. Number 3 and number 4.
I will try it again. You have there with you, no, Muzaffar?
Yes, but no, you
now you see?
access. Yeah, now you see.
Now we can see your slides.
Okay. Well, again, what I'm saying is that the things I'm gonna show are my beliefs and what advice I can give to the young professionals who are getting graduated from the university and are now finding themselves in this momentum of deciding what to do, which company they want to work, and etc. Right? So, in my opinion, in my view, whatever age you are, whatever stage of your career, the first thing you need to understand, and this is the time for you guys to be, what do you want from your career? No, for how long do you want to work? You want to get retired with 40 years, with 60 years? You want to work forever? That's something that is up to each one. Now, how rich do you want to be? Where do you want to work? And here, for many people, having an international career is a proposal of life, and it's okay to be like that. So, if this is an important thing for you, you need to put this as a priority in your life and in your search. So looking for companies that can offer this kind of opportunities will be always a good thing to do. No? And just not looking for the companies, but preparing yourself. No? I was talking to Muzaffar before this call to get updated. And I think, for instance, learning other language, understanding other cultures, and things like that are key competencies for these people who want to have this, to pursue this kind of objectives, right? And I just give an example of how complex is to have this international career perspective as a proposal of life, as well as everything else. Perhaps you don't want to have a work in the private sector, you would like to work in the public sector. That's the momentum to choose what are priorities for your life, and to dedicate time for you to reach the goals and to reach jobs that follow that principles that you have. Because no one will tell you what you have to do on this sense. Not your father, not your teacher. This is something that comes from each of you, and you need to have very clear, and as more clear you have, the better chance for having success in your life will be. Are you seeing my screen, right? Abila?
Yeah.
You guide me. Okay, I will change the slide. I don't know if you are seeing the new slide.
Career proposal.
It's not yet. It's still the career proposal.
Yeah, okay. And now?
Yeah, I saw it.
Now, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Now, one thing that I noticed from young professionals, especially when I was in Indonesia, but also in Brazil, this happens a lot. A lot of people, one thing is to have your proposal of life, to understand what you want from life, and so on. Another thing is go to real life, especially when you left university, where you can choose your friends, you can choose to with the people that we see together, that you do work group together, and these kind of things. And the professional life is not exactly like that. You have to cope with people that you may like and people that you may not like. Political interests goes up, and you need to understand, and you need to have resilience to pass through these kind of things. This happens in every kind of job. This is not specific for one situation. So I put 4 phrases here that I think are important. I think the first one, never take important decision under stress, right? Every time you are under a difficult situation in your life, quitting a job, I've seen a lot of these things happening in my career. And every time I sit with this person to discuss the reasons, and perhaps the person has a good reason for quitting, but at the time and the situation where the person is now, I see clearly that's not the right moment to take these decisions. So what I try to do is to calm down the person and say, look, have a nice sleep at home, talk to your family, take a time and take a good decisions after you are relaxed. Don't take decisions under stress. I think this is the most important thing that I see very often for young people. If you have the opportunity, look for projects that relies on long-term results. I think projects like the training programs that you used to have at Tenaris in Indonesia was a typical kind of job that offered this kind of opportunities. We are always looking for people. We were, at the time I was there, for people and building a career with 10, 15 years time. And normally companies that offer this kind of jobs are the ones that realize a good projects for life as well. And patience. I think we are going to have bad bosses, bad colleagues, and difficult times with them. But this is part of life. You don't choose the one that you have to work. You may choose, but it's not very often that you have this opportunity. So because at the time will prevail, and the good things will happen, and the bad things will go behind, and that are the moments that you're gonna keep in your life. So at this time I can share, these are the people that are attending this meeting, Pak Julio, Patomi, Muzafa, and everybody else. These are the good things that stayed at the end. All the difficult times that we spent in my career, at least perhaps in Indonesia, I don't remember. I just remember the good moments I spent there, and there are a lot. So one other thing that I advise people is, and I see a lot, especially in Indonesia, people change jobs a lot and very frequently. You see young people with 3-4 years graduated with 4 job experiences. When I see this kind of profiles, normally I am very skeptical on going forward with them, because when you see this kind of profile, normally this shows that resilience is not a strength for this person. So be careful before changing jobs very often, especially when you are young. Having resilience and staying and taking decisions that stays for the long term, companies are all willing to pay a premium for that, and especially in Indonesia again. Okay. I will change the slide again. Every time I'm gonna change slide, I'm gonna get out of the presentation and change manually. Well, here is my idol, Mr. Bean, and think that we learn from time. I think it's key to be happy where you are. And this is not just a blah 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 word talk. It's difficult, and companies are, and this is not just in Indonesia. What I'm seeing everywhere, companies are trying to put this artificially there. So trying to create a work environment forcefully to show the happiness of people. But in my opinion, professional success is about individual realization. There is no collective solution for that. So you will only be happy in your job if this satisfies your long-term view, long-term career plan. If this matches with your expectations, the chances that you're going to be happy there are greater than the other side. I just give an example. Normally, especially the young people try to compare their salaries with their colleagues that are working in other companies. And if your colleague are getting more than you, normally you say, oh, this guy is getting more than me. I'm not happy on here. Even though the content of the job is nice, the work environment is nice, but perhaps the salary is not nice because your comparison with others shows that you need to be better paid, you become unhappy. No, and this is something that I would like to highlight. Try to, I mean, I'm not saying it's not easy for you to not consider that, but this is not the key. No, if you are satisfied at your job, look for the long term. I'm pretty sure that people that are happy at the job will perform better, and you're gonna have better chances to get promoted, and that's how you will gonna be better paid. No, so this is an important thing. And another thing that I think is very important is about location. Especially the young people try to underestimate where they're going to work. So, for instance, we used to have positions in Banteng, in Indonesia. We tried to move a lot of people from Jakarta to this place, and we used to lose a lot of people because after 2 or 3 months, people realized that they were not up to live in the remote location. And part of this blame is the company who did not select well these people, but part of that fault belonged to the person because they were not clear how difficult it was to live in another place. No, so I think people need to have a better understanding of where they are working if they receive a proposal, if this place matches with the kind of life he wants to have, he or she wants to have, because choosing to move away is a very difficult decision and should not be underestimated in the career path of anybody. Okay, and the last thing I would like to say is something that I see, especially with the young people again in Brazil a lot. This kind of people looking too much for the future, and they don't have the balance, and they don't live the present; they live in the future. And this kind of environment normally end up in diseases, psychological diseases. And this is kind of thing that concerns a lot, especially in Brazil. I'm not sure if this happens in Indonesia, probably yes. And something that we need to be very, very, very careful, both the young people and the people who are working in the companies, because we need to understand and to balance the time and the period where we are. So giving importance to the moment where you are living, of course, not underestimating the future and neither the past, but a balance is key here. Okay. And least but not last, here we have what I understand also is very important for my professional life, which is the social environment. You may be a very intelligent person, a very technical one, knowing very well from chemical, from physics, and being a scientist. But after graduating, wherever you're gonna go, your growth will depend much more, will rely much more on how people see you than how you see people. So being perceived is key to success. I mean, so it doesn't matter how good you are if you are not able to show this to the people, and if you are not able to do networking that brings people to notice you. So this for me is a very important. In the end, professional life is fully anchored on social politics, and having this ability to build networking, to understand the subjectivity of the things, and to have tolerance with others is something that will make you progress in your career further than others who do not follow strictly this kind of rules. But understanding others sometimes is not just change yourself towards to what people want. You should not change yourself in the way to figure out how people want to like to see you. If you are introverted person, for instance, don't try to move your perception to being perceived as extroverted person, because this is not you. So if you try to find a way for people to get you, to know about you in the way you are, okay? Because every time you try to change yourself just to look beautiful, normally this doesn't have a good future for the long time. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the last slide, then I'm gonna be open to questions. This is something that I learned living in Indonesia. I think I was in Flores Island, and I visited the place where Sukarno built the Pancasila, and I figured out how important is the symbolism for guiding behavior, no? And I studied a bit of the Pancasila symbol, and that's something that I always try to bring to my life and to the places where I work. No, building a symbolic icon that reflects how people should behave is something that for me it's helped me a lot on my job and on my life. So what I shared with you on having proposal or have resilience, be happy, and understand the social environment are the symbols that I need to follow in order to be happy and to have success in my career. As well as Pancasila is for Indonesia, and learning about the history of you guys, having 17,000 islands, a lot of cultures, thousands of languages. I mean, the job that the result of the Pancasila on uniting the country is something that is very great. No, so this is just a way how this impact, how these kind of things can impact people. So what I will left here for you guys to think is, how do you like your symbolic guide? No, you need to take time to decide to think after this talk. Perhaps I can help you. How are the guidance for your career and for your personal life? And having that clear, then you should go to market and look what you want from your career perspective. And I'm sure that if you follow this kind of steps, you're going to be very happy, you're going to have success, and you're going to have a brilliant career. So from that, I end my presentation. And I don't know, Nabila, if you want, we can open a section here to talk.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Pablo, for the presentation. So now we have become more enlightened on how we could prepare our career paths and life plan. And that the one that hit me the most is that salaries is not the point of working. The point of working is to be happy, love your job, and somehow you will get promoted.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Okay. Now, since the presentation of the material has been completed, it's time for us to move to the question and answer session. So feel free to raise your hand and ask directly by turning on your microphone, or you can also ask your question in the chat box.
I just hope you could follow the slides followed by, you could see the right sequence by slides, right? At the end. Nabila?
Sorry?
Could you see the slides in the sequence of my talk? Because I think it was a little bit delayed, the way I changed the slides, but at the end I think was okay, right?
Oh yeah, it was okay. It was
Okay.
clear. So while we wait for the question, I actually have my own question that I prepared for this session. And the question is, what is the definition of a good leader, and what should we do to become a good leader?
Okay. Well, I have the opportunity. This is a good question because I had the opportunity here to a lot of the things. In my opinion, a good leader is a person that inspires you. Know that whatever the momentum you are, there are people that were my boss that I always contact when I have a question, when I have a point, and not just boss, but for instance, Pandu, Paktomi, Muzafa are people that are always in contact. We are always in contact, and we are always in touch. So the good chemical between you and the person that is working with you it's key for you to get inspired and to inspire others. So for me, the definition of a good leader is the one that you have a good chemical, that you have a good fit, and that you realize in every kind of moment, not only the moment that we are fully working together, but the times that you may not be just for working together, but you are in contact. And here I'm very happy to have this example, no? Pac Julio Gonzalez, who is here, is the person that teach me everything that I know from organizational development and helped me a lot to grow as a personal life. And I was very happy to see him attending this meeting, and paying a tribute to him is something that took time. Julio took 10 years, but now is the time for me to recognize how important you were for our professional career.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I didn't expect it anyway, but it's nice to see the way you have developed your own ideas about career development, and I just couldn't agree more with all the things that you said. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Julio.
Okay, sorry, my internet connection is a bit unstable. So the next question is, how do you think Indonesia express talent in international market?
Sorry, I couldn't understand.
How do you think Indonesia express talent in international market?
Okay. I mean, first of all, I don't have any kind of location restriction. I worked in many locations in Brazil and outside Brazil. And what I see, I mean, is not that you are American or you study in the best university or you are just you just know how to read. I mean, normally performance relies pretty much more on behavior. Of course, graduation studying is important because this leverage performance for sure. But the key is to have this kind of willing to make things happening, intelligence to follow that kind of steps that I shared before, and that you can find a lot in Indonesia. No, we found a lot of good people in Indonesia. But looking at international perspective, and that's something that Muzaffar knows better than me, mostly Indonesians goes to Middle East to work as a cheap labor force. And so that's something that should be changed by the time, because as you guys have good universities, good schools, and good people, you should rely every day more in high-skilled jobs abroad instead of going to these lower paid jobs in the Middle East, especially Middle East, where I know that most of Indonesians goes. And what I have seen, I always watched the Indonesian from abroad, even after I left. And that progress I've seen a lot. I mean, 10, 15 years ago, when you talk about Indonesian abroad, we were just looking for these low-skilled jobs. And nowadays, you see a lot of Indonesians getting noticed in high important jobs. I just give an example. There is a large agricultural company, Indonesian company, who bought one of the largest palm oil companies in Brazil. And you have a lot of talent Indonesians working there, which I know.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Mr. Pablo. So the next question came in my direct message. He said, thank you very much, Mr. Pablo, for the great presentation. I'd like to ask if you said earlier that promotion is a self-realization, not collective. So how if we are the job of teams that the quality of the final output depends on the quality of the team itself? Should we shine among others, or we better develop our team better?
I mean, one thing is job realization and satisfaction, and this is something that I understand that is an individual thing. And the other thing is the social tolerance and the social environment, which is the last competence which I described it, which is you should have good relations with people that you like, and you rely on people that you don't like and you may not rely. I mean, this is part of this is one of the things that changed the most when you left university, when you left your home parent or your parents' house, and you go to professional life. Because professional life, there are a group of 1,000 people that have different things, and have different perspective, different ambitions, different pattern, and these all people together have to work together towards to reach a common objective. And here comes the importance of the leadership. So if a company have a good leadership, and is strong, not in this feeling of strong in the bad sense, but strong in terms of inspiring common objectives, is able to, if this management is, if the management of the company is able to make people feel trust that the path that is being cemented is the one that they agree and they understand the future will be bright for them, I'm sure that people will follow that common objective. No, from my experience, what I've seen is always when you have a political dispute inside the management where the path is not clear and people see these kind of situations, normally this kind of thing goes down to the structure, and people start to be unhappy and try to lose this kind of synergy that is needed for every company to have. So one thing is the individual satisfaction, and the other is the collective. And the collective relies pretty much on the leadership and how company is, is willing and is getting to show this kind of path people, and how people perceive this as a positive for them and for the others.
Okay, thank you for the answer, Mr. Pablo. We have someone who has raised their hands. Ari, please ask your question.
Okay, thank you, Nabila. Hello, Mr. Pablo. Very nice to meet you. I'm Ada Latifah, and now I'm in 5th semester majoring in information systems. Thank you for the very insightful material, and thank you for the opportunity to ask questions. So I would like to ask you as when you recruit young professionals, what are the most important qualities you should expect a young professional to have, and that shows on the first impressions, for example, in the interview or in the email message or etc. What are the qualities that you expect from a young professional as an HR? Thank you.
Well, one thing that you can find in the CV, as I said, is this resilience. No, I mean, when you look at someone who has 5 years graduated and spent time in 5 different companies, that's something that I normally I look with more careful eyes. Let's say, no, that's something that you, at least myself, at least I can find in a profile. I always prefer to look people that can show kind of resilience in their profile. But like and always I mean, especially for a young professional who doesn't have a lot of professional background, so normally if you are looking for a more experienced person, you're gonna try to find examples of their career, to measure their knowledge of things. In the case of young professional, normally you just can see how potential this person can go. So looking at the scholar background is something that is important. The family history, I think it's important. I always try to understand what your father or your mother, how your family is structured, as an example to see how are you inspired and how did you reach this university? Because perhaps they may not like your school, you just made because your father asked you to do, for instance, a lawyer, and then say, okay, sounds that this person may not like the job. So understanding the social background of this person, understanding the scholar, how the person dedicated during the university, making part of studying groups, for instance, like this group that is doing this kind of career talks. People that normally are doing this kind of things show that they are willing to grow, they are willing to do things, and I always look into this as a good example. Something that I like to see.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Pablo.
Okay, thank you, Ari, for the question, and thank you, Mr. Pablo, for the answer. Now we have another. Sorry. Um, Baru Sufi, Al-Karim, you can ask your question.
Yeah, hello, Pablo.
Hello, Aru.
Yeah, I love Brazil. You can call me Gustavo. Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question. As HR, uh, in Indonesia, attitude is number one. Attitude is always number one. But as HR opinion, which is better than value or skills or attitude? Value and skills or attitude? That's it.
I don't think you need to rank like that. I mean, I don't see this kind of ranking, which is the number one, number two. I think you have to look at the overall, how you see the total background of the person. Now, of course, attitude is important, not only in Indonesia, everywhere. I mean, this is something that is intrinsic from when you talk to someone and look at their eyes and see that the guy is willing to do. You can notice this, especially in the young people. This is important, I think. But and this is a problem from recruiters that, especially when they are not in HR, because normally I see the recruitment process as a deal breaker process. So from 1 to 10 people, you're going to choose one. So you have to eliminate 9. So you are always looking for, during the process of interview or during the selection process, you're always looking for reasons to exclude people. It's the opposite side. So normally you're going to choose the one that show during the process less chances to be eliminated. This is something. And sometimes when you get very well impressed by someone on the let's say not on the facts but based on the feelings, normally you get confused. I'm talking on the recruiter side, right? And you try to minimize the signals that during the process this person is showing that may not be a good fit for you. So that's something that I always say to my colleagues, that take care on getting in love with a candidate, because you're going to be blind and you may not see the risks that this person may bring to you and to your work environment. So I'm telling you on the recruiter perspective, not on the candidate perspective, just to understand, I think that's how we look on the selection process, especially for trainee programs where you have 1,000 candidates for 10 positions, something like that.
Oh yeah, thank you. And I think I have that 3. Maybe I can work on your office, maybe in Brazil. Thank you for your answer, Pablo.
Are you an agronomist, perhaps?
Okay, thank you for the answer, Mr. Pablo. We have a lot of questions here in my direct message, so I will ask your question, guys. So this one is, I'm so amazed with your presentation, Mr. Pablo. So I have one question. As long you live and being HR in Indonesians, what are the potential of Indonesian people that can be explored more for their career? Thank you.
Oh, if you look Indonesian economy as a whole, as a country, at that time, I think it's growing like 5% per year, 7% per year. I think they still growing this kind of rate. So when you have a country like that, you have the young generation quite more probably to have a better future than your father. Now, this kind of country, which Indonesia and many of Asian countries have, I think it's a place where opportunities exist in a larger scale than the manpower can provide technical skills. So you guys are in a very good position to grow, and Indonesia is just growing 5, 10, 5, 7% a year, because they are being able to provide these technical skills in a pace that can stand the growth. That's not the case of many countries. If you look South America, perhaps Europe, where the countries doesn't grow as this speed as Indonesia grows, probably the opportunities abroad are better and looks better than the opportunities inside the country, because people get graduated and they have any job opportunity. And the perspective, I'm taking the example of Argentina, where I worked, and I've seen this many years, where the perspective of the children is to have a future more difficult than their father have. And this is very sad. No, if if you look to that, you put yourself in this kind of situation, imagine that in your life, this would be a very pessimist perspective of future. So Indonesia, you don't have these kind of things. I know that many of you are looking for a job, you are young, and this is me, but be sure that market in Indonesia will provide you the position that you need to have. And now, then the questions that normally comes from Indonesians, how about the salaries? Indonesians get less paid than others. Again, I don't think you need to look, look for your personal realization and look for the long path. No, you may not get the salary you may want to have at the beginning of your career, and that's very common. But with the time, you're going to have a good job, and you're going to have a good salary, and you're going to be able to raise a family. And when you look in 10, 20 years after, you're going to see yourself in a better position than your father were. And that's important.
Okay, I hope that can answer your question. And so another one is coming from Jane. Thank you for the knowledge that is very useful for us, Mr. Pablo. I would like to ask, as already mentioned, that you have lived in Indonesia. In your opinion, what is the difference between work culture in Indonesia and in international jobs? And what do international companies see in candidate? Because I'm very interested in having an international career. Thank you in advance.
Well, first, Indonesia attracts company because they have a large market. So, companies everywhere are looking in Indonesia with an eye that that they are not having in other countries, because they see in Indonesia an opportunity to grow their business. So probably you see a lot of investments going forward to Indonesia, and this is something important for you to have a good step on that. And no, that's something that normally companies have a policy that's not public, but normally exists, to represent their senior positions in a way that reflects the size of the business. So for instance, if a company have 20% of their income coming from Brazil, probably they're going to be very interesting to have Brazilians in the top positions elsewhere, because Brazil is an important business for the company. No, the same happens for Indonesia. No, so you need to look for that companies are interested in Indonesia. Indonesia is representing every day more a significant part of the business of these multinational companies, and the companies need to develop Indonesians in order to reflect on their board, on the senior positions, the size of the market that they have in Indonesia. So I see a very positive and flow for that. And as I said before, in the 2000s, when I lived in Indonesia, you used to see Indonesians in the low-paid positions in the Middle East. Now I see a lot of Indonesians, which many of them started at Tenaris as young professional, living in the Middle East, but with engineering positions, with manager positions, and this is great. And that's how you should pursue your career.
Okay, Jane, I hope that answered your question. So this one is maybe a little bit the same. It comes from Kairunisa. Thank you for your explanation, Mr. Pablo. I would like to ask, as an HR and as a representative of the company, what kind of expectation or standard that the company demanded from the employee? Because I think when people are talking about international company, they have this kind of perspective that the employees need to be as perfect as possible. Thank you.
I didn't understand. Can you repeat the question?
Um, what kind of expectation or standard that the company demanded from the employee?
Wow. I think the companies, I mean, every company is different. You know, I mean, you cannot, pattern these kind of things. There are companies that are willing skills and competences and are willing to pay salaries different than others. But let's try to, I mean, in order to answer these questions and look in international career perspective, let's assume that this can be standardized. I think, having a good scholar degree and having showing an ethical behavior, having, showing, being able to show resilience, and and to be able to show what your perspective of life is. These are things that companies are willing to have, because this signs that person have greater chances to have a good future inside the company. And I know that these kind of things, let's say, no, employees are every 3-5 years, employees change jobs, and this is okay. I don't think people are willing to have this kind of path. People are willing to grow, whether these growth opportunities can be settled in the company or outside the company. So it's up to the company to be able to give the opportunities to the people at the time they are ready to get these objectives and these new positions, and to be able to communicate properly for those who are not ready why they are not being chosen to be there, and giving them the feedback they need to learn and to develop in order to be better prepared for the future. So the company's responsibilities, I think these are the main things that you need to have, because if you are able to give job opportunities inside your company with the time that people are prepared, I'm pretty sure people will not quit your company. And at the end, having 10-20 years every day is more difficult, but not because of the behavior of people, but I think it's more because of the companies that are not treating this in the proper way.
Okay, Kak Yunisa, I hope that answers your
I hope
question.
that, me too.
It's a bit broad because every company has their own policy.
Yeah. Yes.
There's also an interesting question. As students in this COVID-19 pandemic, do you have any ideas or advice to improve our competency, skills, knowledge, and ability?
Well, I think COVID made us realize that, difficult question, but I think the most important thing that COVID brought is that company learned to rely on the employees, because I think at the beginning of the COVID, when everybody had to stay home, company leaders were very suspicious whether this would work. No, so people were they were willing to have the people close to them. I remember receiving call 8 a.m. from people to just and you could perceive that people were just checking if I was there, and this kind of things. Can you turn on your camera to see if you were in pajama? this kind of things at the beginning happened, and it's okay, because this is new for everybody, And I think with the time passing, the company leaders had to learn how to work with that, and it worked well at the end. So now with the COVID going back and going forward, I think companies are slowly going back, and I see many employees willing to go back to work, and I see many employees not willing to go back to presential work. And I think the solution will be in the midterm. That's what I believe. Probably companies will be more flexible to have the employees, but I think presential presence is important, especially because imagine you have a boss going to the job every day, and you have two employees, one who is coming and another one is staying home, right? Who is going to be, I mean, my question is, who is going to have more chance to be exposed to this boss? The one who is at home or the one that's going to the job? Probably the one that is going to the job is going to have many more chances to express himself in a better way, to take off together with the boss, to build synergy with the boss, than the one that stay at home, right? And I'm not saying that this is good or bad, and I'm not giving my opinion on that. I just think that's something that I'm seeing, because companies, what is happening at the end, people who has pre-existing diseases are staying home, and people who are healthy are going on job. This is happening at the company I'm working today. And I learned that I had some employees in my team just because I was checking the headcount, because I'm not able to, I mean, we have many people in HR. And I realized, I mean, this person who was staying at home could be a very well performing people, but she never had the opportunity to stay close to me. And perhaps for the long term, this may not be good for her. So at the end, I think we don't have that clear yet, and I hope you can have then a proper answer to give to you in the future. But today, people who are closer to their bosses on a presential basis are going to have more chances to grow than the others. Unfortunately, but that's true.
Okay, I hope that could answer the question. So this is the last question, and I remember that you said about leaving the job. So leaving the job shouldn't be because of salaries, but and then what is the right reason to leave your job?
Sorry?
Since you said that salary shouldn't define your living on your job, so what is the right reason to leave your job?
Well, if your proposal of life is to be rich very quickly, perhaps salary is a reason for you quitting your job. I did not say that. I just said that your happiness has to be aligned for your self-realization, right? And most cases, and salary is an important one. Many people get is an instinctive feeling of getting jealous, of getting upset because of salaries. But if this is not your final proposal, for instance, if you want to have an international career, which does not mean that you need to have a higher salary, perhaps that's not and if the company is giving you signals that you may have this opportunity, you may accept to get a less paid job in order to get this opportunity in the future. So what may make people quitting their jobs, it's probably when the momentum, or they're realizing that the future and the perspective that companies is selling does not fit with your proposals. So that's the moment where you have to adjust your career. The problem is that you may not realize this very often. You have to realize this few times during your career, because otherwise you're going to be showing that you are not, you don't know what you want. So you may be careful with that. So you may, as better you know what you want from your career perspective, the greater chances to find jobs that fit with that.
Okay, so we should have our non-negotiable values, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I don't say non-negotiables. I don't know. I think you're never gonna find everything in one job. I mean, you're always gonna have things to complain, and you have to attach it to the good things. And if the good and if the bad things are overpassing the good things, it's time to go.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Ahmad, do you have any additional
No, Pablo, I'm trying to translate. Even my translation is not good. One people is text me on how SHR with the international exposure. How do you see yourself in dealing with the ambiguity?
Okay. In my opinion, human beings don't like ambiguity. Although we may say that to have to like, we are animals that we like a certain future. I mean, sorry to say what I think, but I mean, that's what I really think. So exposing people to ambiguity, it's important because, and then as I said, political environments like a professional life are not certain. I mean, and this is a characteristics of nature of this job, the environment. So the ones that adjust better with ambiguity, you're going to have more chances to succeed. But nobody say, oh, I like the ambiguity, this is what I expect from my life. They may say, but at the end, we humans, we like to have our home, our food, and and that's it. But then we go back to the issues of career perspective. But if you want to get a lot of money, to retire early, to have international career and this kind of things, then you're gonna have to adjust yourself towards to deal with ambiguity better way. So forget to have international career if you don't have if you don't deal well with ambiguity, because when you have international career, you don't know where you're gonna be tomorrow. That's something that implies of having international career. You don't see your parents, you don't see your friends, and you're gonna miss them. And you're gonna have a lot. I mean, you're gonna be probably a higher paid job in the company where you are. You're gonna be always questioned if the company passed through a crisis. So, oh, who are the expensive ones? This is patriot person. This is the expensive one. So you're always the first to appear in the red list. So are you ready to deal with that? If you're okay with that and you are happy because you're, on the other hand, are having the cons, the positive sides of it, it's okay. But it's a must. Deal with ambiguity for international career is not an option. And also for the national career as well. I mean, everywhere. I see Pak Pandu here.
Good, thanks.
Okay, Mr. Pablo, this is the last question. Mr. Aprizal Ahmad, do you want to ask your question directly?
Yes.
Yes? I think it's your mute.
Masih mute, Pak. So Mr. Aprizal Ahmad is the head career center at the State Islamic University in Padang. Mr. Aprizal?
Yes.
Yeah, you can ask your question.
Question this letter that.
Okay, so the question is, what do you think is fundamental in carrying out the career, Mr. Pablo?
In what?
In carrying your career. What is the fundamental? Maybe the same with the guidance.
Yeah, I think what I shared there are my fundamentals. No, what I think is important for me. This is a question that you should raise to each of you. As I said, perhaps some of here want to become a senior lawyer, for instance, or gonna want to become a mayor of a city or a president of Indonesia. I mean, what are fundamental? We are just talking about companies, no, but I know that here you have a pretty broader scope of people who have different ambitions in life. So what are fundamental for them is something that each of you have to learn yourself to see and to define and to go, because perhaps these one are not the ones that these things that I understand as are important. Probably most of these symbolic things are important for many of you as well, because this is pretty much common, but doesn't mean that fits for everybody. Again, this is about self-realization, not collective, right? If you try to put yourself in a perspective that just fit the common standard, probably this is not the end of what you really like and what we really expect, and you may become sad in the future and regret.
Okay, Mr. Aprizal.
Thank you. Thank you information, Mr. Pablo.
Pandu, you have a question, Pandu? I see you very often in the screen.
Just to say hello, Pablo.
Come on.
Okay, Mr. Pablo. Thank you so much for the answer. If there are unanswered questions, hopefully we can meet on another occasion. So, Mr. Pablo, do you have a closing statement, or is that enough?
Well, I hope next time I can have a face-to-face meeting with you guys. Just invite me. I'll be ready, right? And perhaps you can invite Pak Julio too, because Pak Julio can give very good inputs on career. I think he's has very good inputs. And I'm very happy to see my former colleagues at Tenaris all healthy and good.
Okay.
I think, Nabila, before we close the session, I would like to ask some closing statement from Julio, from Tommy during this session.
Good. I spoke too much.
Something.
Okay.
It's a pleasure to work with you guys, and I was listening to Pablo's perspective on his career ideas, and I did recognize a lot of the things that he mentioned when he was working with us, right? So at the end of the day, it was a pleasure. I was attracted by a question of someone who said, when do I leave my job? And probably the best recommendation I would give to you is leave your job when you feel you stop learning. When you feel you are really getting inside of your comfort zone and you are not really incorporating anything new. So look for learning, and learning in terms of competences, experiences, projects, new ideas. And usually when we look at talent, I work as a consultant today, and we try to assess talent. And we always say, for talent, you require resilience, of course, passion, and determination. But the most important thing for us is to see that if you have the passion, you should also try to go not always on the easiest way. Passion put together with resilience and hard work is probably what makes the best out of the experience that you're actually going on and going through. So experience, passion, and don't look for the easy way. That's the best way to build your career, in my perspective. Thank you for the opportunity, Pak Mustafa.
Tommy, you have some closing statement supporting Pablo?
Yeah, again, so this is my pleasure indeed to see all my colleagues here. I would say we learned a lot from Sir Julio. We were exchange the knowledge, the experience, the cultures together. Well, Nabila, being exposed to this very small globe, all the attributes mentioned by Julio, by Pablo, indeed something that we need to possess. But however, being yourself, I think you should not forget that. So be connected to the globe, but be still yourself. Thank you.
Agree.
I agree, absolutely. Be true to yourself.
Yeah, agree. Thanks. Okay, Nabila.
Okay. So that's the additional advice from Mr. Julio. Resilience, determination, patience, hard work, and don't look for easy way. And also, addition from Mr. Tommy is to still be yourself and still connected to the globe. Okay, thank you so much for the additional. Before we end our webinar for today, we will do a documentation session first. To all the participants, please turn on your camera for a group photo.
Nice.
So we can take a photo together. Okay, we are still waiting. Oh, there's so many people here.
It's about 70 people, right?
Right.
Yeah,
61.
it was 80. Okay, Rizky, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, on my cue, one. Oh, there's still a lot of people. Okay, please turn on your camera, guys. You guys can share it in LinkedIn. Today's experience and tag us at Pusat Karir UIN. Share video tuh Jakarta.
Good.
Okay. Okay, on my cue. 1, 2, 3, smile. Hold your smiles. Okay. Okay. The documentation is done. So the documentation session has been completed, which also marks the end of our session today. As the moderator, I would like to say big thanks to Mr. Pablo Pusterla, who has taken the time to provide materials in today's webinar. Also, thank you to Mr. Ahmad, Mr. Tommy, and Mr. Julio, who has joined us in our discussion today. And lastly, thank you to all the participants who have joined us. Don't forget to share the excitements of today's event through our social media, Instagram and LinkedIn, and tag us at Karir UIN Jakarta or Pusat Karir UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta. As the moderator, I apologize for any mistake that has been made. Thank you very much for your attention and see you later on our next event. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Pablo, Mr. Julio, Mr. Tommy.
Bye-bye all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Goodbye.
Pandu, who has also attended us today. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Ms.
Thank
Salam.
you.
Pablo.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Pablo.
Julio.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Patung,
Bye-bye.
terima kasih.